Hello learner, greetings of the day. In the last video we have discussed about web and hypertext transfer protocol. Continuation to that, in this video we will discuss about user and server interaction using cookies and web cache. During the discussion of hypertext transfer protocol, we have seen that the protocol is a stateless protocol. That means it doesn't store any user's session information. To facilitate this, we have another concept called as cookies. Cookies will allow sites to keep track of users. It is defined under RFC 6265. The cookies are designed with 4 components. First one is cookie header with the HTTP response message, cookie header line in the next HTTP request message, cookie file kept on user's host managed by user's browser, and the last one is backend database at website. So these 4 components helps cookies to keep track of users. Now we will see how exactly cookies works by taking an example. So here we consider interaction between a client and the server. We assume that the client has already visited eBay site. So that is why there is a entry for that site in the client's cookie file. So now we will assume that the client make a request to the Amazon server for the first time. Client types www.amazon.com. So now client will be sending a HTTP request message to the server. When the server receives the request message, it finds that the client is visiting the server for the first time. That is why the server creates an identification number in the server's database. In this example, it creates an ID with 1678 for the client. After creating an entry in the database, the server sends the response message for the request, including a special header line called as set cookie, which includes the created ID 1678 for the client. The HTTP response message will be sent from server to the client. Now, the client will create an entry in the client cookie file, which is maintained by the browser. Now you can see that there is 2 entry in the cookies file. One is for eBay and another is for Amazon with the ID sent from server. Now whenever the client accesses the same server after some days or some time, the HTTP request message will be sent along with a header line called as cookie with the identification number. The server, whenever it receives with the request ID 1678, the server will start tracking this session by accessing the identification number 1678 from the web server database. The server will send the usual HTTP response for the request made to the client side. So this will repeat for any further request made from the client. In this way, the server will keep track of users or clients session in the server side. Same cookie identification number will be utilized for further sessions. So this is how normally the e-commerce websites will be keep track of the users session, what are the things are traced or what are the clients has seen in the server, etc. What cookies can be used for? So they are used for authorization. That means authorizing the users for accessing the server. It is used for shopping carts. That means to create the login session for the users, to provide the recommendations for the users. This is mainly used in e-commerce websites to recommend the items for the users. So this is happens based upon the access history created at the server, and it is also used for user session state, normally which is used by web emails. Since cookies stores user's profile, which includes email, name of the user, so these can be shared with the third party sites, so which will be used for advertisement purpose or any other purpose. So we have to be careful while giving the information about the profile. The next topic is web cache. The web cache is also called as proxy server. A proxy server is a network entity that satisfies HTTP request on behalf of an origin web server. Here, proxy server act as a intermediate device between client and origin server. That means all the requests made from the client to server will be passed through proxy server, and the response given from the server will be sent through the proxy server to the client. The web cache has its own disk storage to keep a copy of recently requested objects by the clients. The proxy server acts as a both client and server. How this is done? The proxy server acts as a server to the client, and it acts as a client for the origin server. So now HTTP request is made from the client to the proxy server. Since the object is already stored in the proxy server whenever client made a previous request, now the request will be served directly by the proxy server instead of origin server, because the requested object is already stored in the proxy server. Typically, web cache is installed by internet service provider or university or a company to serve the clients. The web cache provides various advantages. The first advantage is reduces response time for the client request. Since whenever an object is present in the web cache, The client will receive the response from the web cache instead of web server, which reduces the response time. The second advantage is it reduces traffic on an institution's access link, as some of the requests made by the client will not send to the origin server. This will reduce the traffic. The third advantage is it reduces the cost. Why? Because the access link, the bandwidth of the access link can be reduced. And the fourth one is it improves the efficiency by reducing the response time and other parameters. So now we will see how exactly the web cache improves the efficiency of the network with an example. In this example, we are considering a network where we have a institutional network with 100 Mbps LAN, which is connected to a public internet with a 15 Mbps access link. And we consider that a client from the institutional network make a request for an object with the size 1 megabits, and average request rate from the browser to the origin server is 15 objects per second. That means 15 objects are requested by the client from the origin server. So total data rate to the browser will be 15 megabits per second, because one object is of size 1 megabits and totally 15 objects are requested per second. We consider RTT, that is round trip time, from institutional router to any original server is 2 seconds. So here the LAN utilization is 15%, because the LAN speed is 100 Mbps. Out of 100 Mbps, we transfer 15 megabits of objects per second. So that is why the LAN utilization is 100%, but access link utilization is 100%. Because 15 megabits of data will be transferred per second. So totally 100% utilization will be made of the access link, available access link. Here we calculate the total delay as the sum of internet delay and access delay and LAN delay. So internet delay is 2 seconds, that is total round trip time between institutional network and original server. The access delay will be in terms of milliseconds, and the LAN delay is negligible, which will be in terms of microseconds. The problem here is whenever the number of requests made by the client increases. As we have seen here, the total utilization is 100% for the access link. Now whenever client makes or increases the request from the origin server, there will be a problem or the delay will be more. So there will be a congestion between institutional network and the public network or internet. To solve this problem, we have a solution. The one solution for the problem is increasing the access link. So here we increase the access link speed from 15 Mbps to 100 Mbps. So rest everything we have considering same as previous slide. So what happens whenever we increase the access link speed? The LAN utilization is 15%. Since we are keeping the LAN speed as before, that is 100 Mbps, but access link utilization is only 15% now. Since we have increased the access link speed from 15 Mbps to 100 Mbps, the access link utilization is only 15%. If you consider the total delay, the access delay is reduced to microseconds from millisecond. So both access delay and LAN delay will be negligible, and the total delay will be in terms of around 2 seconds. But here the problem is, whenever we increase the access link speed, the cost will be more. So this solution is not cost effective. Now we calculate access link utilization and total delay with introducing a web cache in the institutional network. So here we have considered a web cache in the institutional network. Now some of the requests will be served by the local web cache and some of the requests will be served from origin servers. If you consider that the hit rate is 40%, that means 40% of the request will be served by the web cache and 60% of the request will be served from origin servers, then what will be the access link utilization? So the access link utilization will be 60%. So how do we calculate that? So first we have to calculate the data rate to browsers over the access link. That means since only 60% of the request go through the access link towards origin servers, we consider 0.6 into 15 Mbps, that is access link speed. So which comes up to 9 Mbps. So out of 15 Mbps, if we consider only 9 Mbps, then it results into 60%. So total access link utilization is 60% in this case. How do we calculate the total delay? So we consider 60%, that is 0.6 into delay from the origin server plus 40%, that is 0.4 into delay when satisfied by the cache. So delay from the origin server is 2 seconds, that is RTT, and we consider approximately milliseconds for the serving the response from the cache. So this results into approximately 1.2 seconds. So if you consider this delay, this is less than the delay whatever we have calculated in the 100 Mbps LAN delay. And here, since we keep the access link as same, this also reduces the cost. So this results into cost effective solution and also reduces the delay. So we can say that introducing or including a local web cache will improve the efficiency of the network in providing the response or serving the clients in a network. Next concept is conditional get method. When we are discussing HTTP request message, we have discussed about get, post, delete methods. What is the purpose of conditional get method? The use of conditional get method is to keep web cache up to date. Sometimes there will be a situation where web cache will be serving a stale data to the client. The origin server will be having a updated object, but web cache will be serving the old data to the client. So in order to keep web cache updated, the web cache will be using the conditional get method. A request message is conditional get message only if the request message uses the get method, and the request message must include a header line with if modified. So if these two things are there in the get method, then only we say it is a conditional get. We will see the working of conditional get method with an example. Here we consider a client, a server and a web cache between the client and server. First, the client makes a request with the server through the web cache. That means the HTTP request transferred from client to web cache. Since it is a requesting an object, we have a get method in the request and a host with the address given in the slide. Since the web cache does not have this object, the web cache will be requesting for the server for the object. So HTTP request will be made from the web cache to the server. Now the server will be responding for the requested object. Server will be sending a HTTP response along with the requested object. So this will contain some of the header line like date server last modified. This last modified data will be kept on the web cache and a copy of the object will be kept on the web cache. Once the web cache has the object, the web cache will be serving the client with the same object. And client will receive the object requested. Whenever the client requests same object, now the web cache will look into its storage whether the requested object is already present in the web cache or not. Even though it has the copy, but it has to check whether the content of that web cache is up to date or not. In order to check whether the object is up to date, now the web cache will be creating a conditional get. So we will see now how actually the conditional get will be transferred from web cache to the server. Here we can see that this is a conditional get as there is a if modified since method or the header line is included in the get request. In order to call a request message as conditional get method, first we have to see that it is a get method and there should be a header line with the if modified since. So the content of the if modified since is nothing but whatever web cache stored in the previous case. Now the server will be sending the updated object only if it has the last modified date as after the specified date. If it does not have any updated object, then it will send a response with empty entity body and with the status as 304 not modified. So we can say that the object whatever the web cache has, it is up to date and server does not have any updated object. Now the web cache will be serving the request made by the client with the object whatever it had earlier. If at all the server sends the updated object, then the web cache will update itself and send the updated object to the client. This is how the conditional get works in order to keep a web cache up to date. Thank you for watching. We will meet in the next video.